Hello. This podcast may contain explicit language and have adult themes and concepts. Parental guidance is suggested. Good morning and welcome to Sidebar by Dana Duncan, the show that covers a broad range of subjects from the perspective of a lawyer with more than 37 years of experience in law and 62 years in life. I'm your host and creator, Dana Duncan. I am doing this as my individual podcast. My son Thomas and I do the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast for 6 years now. I've done one for my show as well, or for my office as well. I'm a lawyer with offices in central Wisconsin and Madison, Wisconsin. Practice in the area of Social Security disability, but I've done everything from criminal defense and having more 150 jury trials through the years. And I've done a lot of travel and etc. So if you want know anything more about me, go back and listen to the recording of the previous session. But the whole purpose of this is to keep it within about 30 minutes so that you can listen to it now, and if later you want to listen to the recording and download, it's perfect for drive time to and from work. So we're going to start today's show with my review of two movies I saw this week. I saw the movie Pressure and Disclosure Day. I'm going to give you a brief rundown of my own rubric. Our show, G-Mode, or Greatest Movie of All Time, uses the rubric Tom developed, but my rubric is as follows. I grade the entertainment value of the movie, the performance of the lead actors, the quality of the ensemble cast, the overall cinematic quality, and the strength of the script or story. Saturday night, I happened to see the movie Pressure, starring Andrew Scott and Brendan Fraser. I really enjoyed the film. I scored this on a scale of 1 to 4. So there are 5 categories. So what I'm going to do is score it, and then I will average them, and that gives you an idea of the value or whether the movie's worth watching. Pretty much anything a 3 or over for a final score is something I do recommend you watch. If it's a 4, you have to watch. Okay? So, the entertainment value of the movie. I really found this entertaining. This is my sweet spot. I'm a military historian by choice, by whatever. Amateur, I know, but still enough that I was able to watch the movie and find a couple of factual flaws in it, but regardless, it's worth watching that way. So I gave it a 4 for entertainment. I really think that one of the great actors of our time, and I hope he gets into opportunities that allow him to really show his acting chops more, but Andrew Scott is just a brilliant actor. If you've ever seen the movie or seen the TV show Sherlock, he plays Moriarty, and his portrayal of Moriarty is just frightening. Brendan Fraser as Eisenhower, well, it wasn't quite the casting I thought about, but he did a very good job as well. The quality of the ensemble cast, I enjoyed. I always enjoy Ms. Carrie Conlon, and her performance was equally good. So I gave the lead actors a 4, and the quality of the ensemble cast also a 4. For the cinematic quality of the film, I wasn't sure about some of the cinematography. The directing was a little lacking at times. I know this was shot supposedly at night. The overall mood of the thing wasn't the best. So a 2.5 for cinematic quality. It's not likely to be nominated for any major Academy Awards this year, I don't believe. The script or story, not perfect. As I indicated, the character developments were not as good as it could have been. Could have been a little more involved, but they did take some license with the story itself and the facts of the case, but it was done for cinematic effect. I gave it a 3.5. Overall, that is a 3.6. So I do recommend you watch it. The entertainment value of the movie for Disclosure Day. The lead actors, again, it's Josh O'Connor was wonderful. Emily Blunt was wonderful. Coleman Domingo is going to be one of the greats in the movie industry over the next couple of decades. The things he's able to do and the range he has. And Colin Firth as a villain was very good. So whoever made that casting really had a great vision. So I'm going to give all of the 5 categories. It was just a phenomenal movie. It was amazing. It sucked you in. It kept you on the edge of your seat. There was just enough tension and drama and chase scenes and such to keep the quality up. And the ending is so good. It brought me to near tears simply because it was so beautiful. Humanity coming together, despite all of the difficulties we're having right now as humans have, and it mentions the whole concept of understanding and of empathy and such. So I thought it was a beautiful story, beautiful movie. Spielberg did another great job. I'm a perfect 4. You have to see this movie. All right. On that, now I've got my reviews in. This week's topic is law school. Maybe you have thought about going yourself. Maybe you have somebody that you're thinking about or know somebody that's thinking about law school. I'm going to give you a little bit of my reaction and my history here. The way that I first experienced law school was this. Think of yourself having a root canal and then think about having it done through your anus. Okay? That's the way law school is or was for me to start. The professors are constantly hammering you, and it's the Ricky Bobby mentality, which is if you're not first, you're last, which I think is just asinine. For those of you in law school or thinking about law school or know somebody is, it's bullshit. Okay? The person who's first in, or the first in my class, I believe, got a nice high-paying job and left after within a year because he got frustrated of how little he was actually doing for legal work. He was basically reading depositions and summarizing them, and that's what he did all day. There was no real work, no client contact, etc. I also know people that have been quite successful, such as myself, who I was not in the top of the class. I was more in the middle of the class. But it's a matter of developing your skills and your people skills and developing your skills as a lawyer, and we will get to that in a second. So the trick I learned was not to care so much. I started dating a girl. I fell in love. Law school was important, but it was not all consuming anymore. So she lived 3 hours away from law school. I started picking classes on that only met on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So on Thursday afternoon or late in the afternoon, I'd leave and drive to from Milwaukee. I was at Marquette Law School, and she was living in La Crosse, Wisconsin, in attending UW La Crosse, So I started going there, and I'd be there on Thursday night. Friday, I had a clerk position with a law firm there. Saturday, I studied. Sunday, I studied. Monday, I worked as a clerk again. And then I would leave at like 5 a.m. on Tuesday morning and drive back to Milwaukee. And I did that for pretty much my second semester of my second year and my entire third year. In that particular case, I got married in between over that summer, and my wife and I will be celebrating our 38th anniversary in August. You know what? My grades improved, my joy in the process improved, and I felt like I had much better quality of life as a result. So, don't take it so seriously. And I guess that's where I'll start. Now, law school itself, and I get this all the time. You know, I have a good friend. His nephew went to law school. He was transferred from Marquette to, I can't remember which law school, because on the ranking, it was 10 school rankings higher. And he thought, oh, this will get me a better job. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit. First off, I went and researched what are the 5 highest cost law schools in the nation. All right. And number 1 is Columbia. The cost of annual tuition is $88,390. The second is New York University School of Law, $87,000. And the reason why, University of Southern California Gould School of Law, it was $85,948. Harvard is the bargain at only $84,900. And the Northwestern Pritzker School of Law was 5th at $80,633. Now, the starting salaries of all of these schools ranged at approximately $215,000 to $220,000 a year. Okay, so that's the average. You're going to have salaries that are going to exceed that. You're going to have salaries that are going to fall behind. So when you talk about law schools, getting into a prestigious law school, probably in the top 10 or so in the country, is going to result in you having a better starting salary. It's also going to be looking at the longevity. So I also researched how much money those individuals made after 20 years. Most of those were making over $400,000 a year. The one that was surprising was USC is only at $350,000, so I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Now, in contrast, the lowest school tuitions in the nation are as follows. And I'm going to go reverse order. The 5th, Florida A&M at $14,000, University of Montana at $13,000, Brigham Young University at $13,000, University of North Dakota at $13,000, and the University of District of Columbia at $12,000 is the lowest amount in the country. Starting salaries in those for those schools range in the $50,000 to $65,000 range. So it does make a difference as to where you go to law school, at least as far as the top schools and the bottom schools. Of course, most of it, what you're going to do is you're going to learn that individuals from any class will have more success, others will have less success. So, next I'm just going to do the following, which is I went and did an assessment of the 20 schools that are in the middle. And there's 20 of these schools, and I'll just pick a couple of them. Indiana University at Bloomington, out-of-state tuition is $58,000. Gonzaga, $57,000. University of California at Berkeley, in-state tuition is $57,000. Let's see, Villanova is at $56,000. I'm just giving a couple of here. Chicago Kent School or College of Law is $55,000. University of Minnesota is $54,000 for out-of-state tuition. Okay, starting salaries for these middle range ones are starting out between around $80,000 to $90,000. Okay, the average salary after 20 years of these, you're going to find that they don't increase substantially. For example, Duquesne University School of Law, they're in the $105,000 to $150,000 range. Surprisingly, Cal Berkeley, that starting salary is $175,000 to $215,000, and their value after 20 years is again around $280,000 to $420,000. So there's a wide variation. So the point I'm making is that you don't necessarily want to go into the lowest schools or the cheapest schools, but you don't need to spend top dollar because you're paying a lot for the school. Now, admittedly, the top 5 to 10, yeah, you probably do get a better law school education and such. You don't necessarily develop any better skills as a lawyer, but you do also have access to the Rolodex. And quite frankly, these schools have a tendency to take care of each other. The smaller schools or the less expensive ones, not as much. I would say that there's not a big network of Marquette lawyers who hire Marquette lawyers. So you do what you can. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you briefly about the skills that are generally required to be a lawyer. The first is research and analysis, and that's the foundation of everything. Most of the law schools will teach you that. Written communication, okay, that is a core factor. And while there's writing classes and such in law school, unless they've changed dramatically, I've learned that the law school class writing samples or processes not necessarily sufficient to practice law. It's something that you basically have to spend a long time developing and processing in order to get through the whole law school process and into becoming a lawyer. Oral advocacy and persuasion. They do mock trials, they do mock hearings, etc. It does not train you on how to actually do a deposition, how to handle a client meeting, how to actually appear in court and make an argument that has some validity and strength and is persuasive in nature. And that, again, is something you just basically develop. Client counseling and relationship management, they do a terrible job in law school of providing that information. So it's just not there. Negotiations. Again, you have to develop or learn a style. And when you develop a style, you have to stick to that style. You can't just change and go to a different style every time. I have a very aggressive style. I find it humorous when I have attorneys who refer to me as a bastard to other attorneys because, quite frankly, I am. I had a case some time ago in a workers' compensation claim. We were about $4,000 apart. It wasn't a huge claim, but I figured my client deserved every dollar of this. The opposing counsel said that she would only go up like $500. I photocopied the Wisconsin Department of Transportation roadmap where it showed all construction sites, and I faxed it to her. And she called my office, talked to my assistant, who asked what this was for. The instruction was, when she called, was to tell her that I wanted to make sure she wasn't late getting to the hearing so that she could bypass any construction zones. She referred to me as an ass and then came up with another $2,500, which ended up settling the case. So I don't mind it. I think it's a tactic, but again, not something you necessarily learn in law school. Critical thinking and issue spotting. This is one thing law school does do for you, but again, there's nothing like the practice of law and being in the trenches and dealing with clients on a regular basis. And law school only can do so much. Now, the seventh skill that lawyers need is time management and organization. Well, law school, when I went, one of my professors said, we just give you a lot of busy work. And the reason we're giving you a lot of busy work is because we're trying to get you to a point where you actually understand that the job or practice of law is not a 40-hour-a-week job. It is 50 to 60 hours minimally. There are lawyers who, that work for the big law firms who are working 70 to 90 hours because they have to produce so many billable hours. And you can't bill for every moment on a case. Things that are unproductive or prove fruitless, you really can't bill your clients for. So time management and organization is key, but again, it's not there. Emotional intelligence, being able to read people, understanding what they need and how they need it, not law school relevant. Business and financial literacy. Okay, they will teach you some things about, I took securities law, and so they taught me the fundamentals, but they taught me nothing about how business works, how corporations work, how they try to get their financing, how they, basic day-to-day activities, not there, let alone trying to figure out how to do business and financial literacy for your own practice if you open your own office. Ethical judgment and professional responsibility. Obviously, you have to have these courses in law school. But again, there's only so much that can be done by example. You have to live in the real world. Technological proficiency, I guess that is getting more with computers. Attention to detail, how a misplaced comma can cost, $2 million because the contract's wrong. This is very important, another skill that is taught but not as significant. Strategic thinking and big picture judgment, not something that I found law school to be very helpful with. Resilience and stress tolerance. That law school does teach you. And that is a key thing. As I indicated in my experience, my grades went up after I started spending time with my wife. I wasn't spending time with all of the echo chamber where, oh my God, we've got this to do, and how am I going to get them writing a sample or done? How am I going to get all those cases read? And it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everybody stresses out, and they stress each other out. It's just ridiculous. Leadership and business development, again, no, it's not there. Most people, if they develop or have these coming into law school, they already had them from either work experience or college where they were leaders or on campus or however you want to put it. So the skills necessary for the most part are not skills that are generally taught in law school. So I'm going to give you a little sample or give you some idea of what exactly I'm talking about. When you get out of law school, you're going to be committing malpractice basically every day. It's not it's not a possibility, it is a certainty, because you don't have a clue of how to be a lawyer. Law school trains you to be a lawyer or a law professor or a law clerk. It does not teach you the fundamentals of how it is to go through and deal with clients. For example, at no time in law school did they ever talk about a CYA letter, cover your ass letter, which is something that I have to constantly beat into my young associates. If you have a phone conversation with a client, you can understand what was being said, and you can think that the client understands what's being said. It don't work that way, okay? You don't get to just do this. And if you don't confirm it, you'll have your clients calling back and saying, well, you promised me this, or you said this, when you never said it. So you have to put all of this into writing in order to have it. So you send the letter. This is a letter to confirm that we had this conversation on this date. This is what we discussed. This was the recommendation or advice I gave. This is your response and what you've agreed to do. And then send, if you disagree with this letter or feel that it is an error, please contact me within 3 business days. Covers you. You've got it now in writing. They can't come back. Okay? So you need to, and the rule I've established is the first 5 years you're trying to figure out what you're doing. Okay? You have to develop these skills. It's not like somehow or another you can overnight become a successful lawyer. It takes time and patience. The problem I'm seeing is that a lot of the firms are hiring that pay big dollars. You know, the big law, the 50 or 25, 50 lawyer firms. They're paying top dollar. You might come out of law school and make $140,000, $150,000 a year. You're not going to see a client. You're not going to get to court. You're not going to do anything but carry a briefcase for one of the senior partners. And what tends to happen is after 4 years, 5 years, when you've burned out, because that's about the life expectancy of this, although it's shortened somewhat down to 2.5, you get out. You may have been the top in your law school class, but trying to find a job now is going to be difficult because you've spent all your time in one facet and you've not developed any of the skills necessary to be an actual lawyer in a responsible work setting and doing what you need to do. So you've fallen behind now of the kids who may have been the middle or even the lower part of your class who've actually been out and have taken cases. You know, I took, as I said, I was taking every case that was going to go to trial as a public defender. Why? Because I knew I had to develop skills to be an elaborate or effective examiner of witnesses and cross-examiner of witnesses. It has provided me so much opportunity and value as a lawyer to develop those skills. But it took time, it took study, it took self-reflection. I'm big on post-mortem exercises. So after a trial, I would go back through my notes and I would think about it for a bit. I tried to let it go so that I wasn't wallowing. But I tried to go into that more and think about what I could do better or differently. So the best thing you can do is to try a broad range of stuff. Try doing different types of law if you can, because things that I thought I possibly would have liked to have done before law school and then when I was in law school are not what I'm doing now. I never would have thought I would be a disability attorney, but that's kind of what ended up happening. But the skills I have, when I look at a lot of the attorneys who are doing this work, they have not had the same level of training, even if it was self-taught training, that I have had. So I believe I'm a more effective examiner or cross-examiner of witnesses and are able to provide a better overall skill. In my office, the philosophy is very simple. If you know anything about cross-country skiing, it is virtually impossible to cross-country ski through heavier snow. It's very difficult because there's no trail. What happens is that in places or areas where they allow cross-country skiing, there's a golf course in my area that does it. They have a snowmobile, and the snowmobile has a sleigh behind it with tracks the width of a cross-country ski. They plow through and create the lanes that you follow. My job as the senior attorney in the office is to be the snowmobile and the sled with the tracks opening the path for the associates. It still requires, because no matter how often or how, the first time you go on that trail, it's still not going to be the best. Each time someone goes on that trail, though, it because of the pressure of the skis and the body weight on it, causes the snow to pack and melt and then refreeze. It's all ice within 10 or 15 people going on that track. It is much easier the more often you use the track, but it takes a lot to get it started. That in and of itself is what I believe the job of a senior attorney should be. I did not have much mentoring in my first job. I was told I was going to be meeting weekly with a senior partner, and I think we met 2 or 3 times in 2 years. And I was left to flounder, and the things deteriorated, and it was agreed that I would leave within the next 5 months. And I did. And I'm glad I ended up with another job where I had more opportunity to learn broader areas of law. So, again, it's just a matter of what's going on and what you're trying to do. And it's really a process of learning this stuff. You can't just overnight get it, and law school does not prepare you. So, in brief summary, because I want to keep this within the half hour, maybe a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, depending on the subject matter. What I'm recommending for you out there and for anybody who's interested, right now, the market is great for lawyers. There are actually more lawyers retiring or leaving the profession than there are kids getting out or men or women graduating from law school. The market in some states is absolutely barren. You could basically go into certain more rural states, such as I believe the numbers I saw were in North and South Dakota were low. Places like Kansas, there just aren't enough lawyers. And so it is a great opportunity. So just don't believe or think for a minute that your law school is going to be the be-all and end-all. There is a strong correlation. I believe it's about 70% of all people who graduate from a law school will end up in jobs in the state where that law school is located. So if you're going to go to the University of Iowa Law School, more likely than not, you're going to end up with a job in Iowa. So as you're looking for law schools, you should take it into consideration. Is this a state or region that I want to live in? Because that's where the jobs are more likely to be, because firms are coming in and starting to recruit law clerks in the second year of law school and grooming those attorneys to take on responsibilities so that when they graduate, they're actually associates. And so the process is different than what I did, which, the graduates basically struggled to find jobs leading up to graduation. And there was a strong chance that I think my class was in the middle of a downturn. It was like 50% of my class did not have jobs by October after graduating in May. So, but that changes year to year. Right now, again, as I indicated, it's down. But some of the areas that they're having problems right now is well, basically they're just not getting enough lawyers in certain markets, and that's what you really should be looking at, because it's not just private practice. There's a lot of these jobs that are going into corporate and such for compliance and such. But again, I would urge everybody to look at it. If you can get into the top law schools and you can afford it, great. If you can't, and you get into any one of the mid-level law schools, you still are going to be a lawyer if you graduate. You still, some require a bar examination. I guess my thoughts on bar examinations I'm going to save for another show, because I think they're kind of ridiculous, because they really don't show that you have the skills necessary to be a lawyer. It just is just a method to require people to learn a bunch of information that and regurgitate it on paper without actually having any real application for it. So we'll talk about that at another time. But again, I would encourage you right now, because of the declining numbers, to consider law school. You just have to understand that not to take it as seriously as everybody says. Get your degree. I have hired several lawyers, and I have never asked for a law school transcript. Is the law school they're going to competent? And do they have skills that I can use? Are they intelligent, and can they be trained? And I believe that's my responsibility to then train them and make them into a professional. So you do not, in this day and age with the high cost of law school, you do not need to go to the most prestigious law school to be successful. You need to be able to learn, be an autodidactic, somebody who's a continuous learner for life, and somebody who's willing to always hone their skills and learn to do things better. So on that note, I want to thank you for watching Sidebar by Dana Duncan, and we're in the process of making sure the copies are all uploaded to the website for Roddy Duncan Studios, which is the parent company of my podcasts, and that these will be available for small excerpts on the various platforms, such as YouTube, which is where it's now live, but also TikTok, Blue Sky, X, Instagram, and Threads. So, on that note, until next week, have a great time, great week, and enjoy your life and savor every moment.